All right. Good morning, everybody, or evening, or afternoon, whatever it is where you are. How are y'all doing?
Good evening.
Hi, Stefan.
Okay, you said good evening. Is it Esther?
Castor, yeah. So I'm from Singapore. So it's
Okay.
actually 12 midnight right now here.
Okay, it's great to have you. It's great to have all of y'all here. I just want to say big thanks to Christopher for hosting these events. I know Christopher, from a number of things we did back in the day, and it just continues. He's a builder. He includes people, and he just gets us in a place so that we're talking about the possibilities of really everything. If you consider some of the discussions that have happened through GatherVerse over the last couple of years, it's been extraordinary. I'm Stefan Youngblood. I'm here in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I run Black AI Think Tank as well as the Black AI Hub. And we have a job board that's hireblack.com. And we started some of our first work with Black Metaverse. William Jackson, who was on here earlier, talked about a church that we had in the metaverse that was really extraordinary. We met people all over the world every Sunday morning just by sitting in my house using virtual reality glasses. So I want to start this sort of by having each one of us do a brief introduction of yourself, and we're going to sort of jump right into some ideas here. This is Virtual Worlds, open to all, built by all. I love that, 1,000%. So how about we do a couple of introductions first? And Kester, can I have you go first?
Yeah. So I'm Castor. So I'm from Singapore. Good morning to you. And it's actually almost, it's bedtime here. But glad to be here sharing on this topic. I founded People Decoder. People Decoder is actually looking at HR and AI. But before this, I have spent almost 3 years in a company that deals with Web3 blockchain and most importantly, Metaverse. We were trying to build Metaverse, trying to bring the good of Metaverse to the people around us. Of course, we have our mission as to why we want to do that. It was a good run. They are still running it. I've moved on, but still my passion for Metaverse is still there because I truly believe that virtual worlds and actually real world can coexist.
That's good. I'm going to come back to this question in a second, but isn't the real world enough? Why do we need to have virtual worlds? And how many are we going to have? Do they go on forever or what? So, Malay, I'll come to you next. If you would do a greeting, it's great to have you here this morning.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Stefan. And nice to meet everyone. So I am Malay Kapoor. I live in Vancouver in Canada. So I'm in the Pacific time zone. My background has been I started with as being an aviation psychologist, working for an airline, doing a lot of pilot and engineering recruitment and some interesting work there. I moved into HR, operations and strategic HR work. And in the last 10 years, I am more into talent management and talent acquisition. For the last 9 years, I have my own company, MK Network, where I provide talent search and career coaching for technical professionals. I got interested into virtual world because for the last 9 years, I have been working virtually and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. Pandemic came as a bit of a blessing to help us still connect, even if we could not connect physically. So I stuck onto it and I'm thoroughly enjoying doing that. So I wish to learn more in this group. You're muted, Stephen.
Yeah. So if you said on a 0 to 100% connection, virtual versus physical, we've all made this move. If you just had to throw a number at it right now, what would you say you sense? Because we're virtual right now. what would you say that is for you?
Oh, well, like I said, I'm working 100% virtual right now.
Mhm.
So if your question is related to what is favorable versus what's the reality, is that what you're asking?
Sort of what you feel, what you feel.
Oh, I feel great. I think virtual world has made the digital divide much lesser,
Yeah,
and I'm
yeah,
hoping that in future it'll become less and less.
yeah.
There's obviously pros and cons
Mhm.
for working virtual versus reality.
Right.
So far, I come from the corporate world, so I can speak more about the world of work virtual rather
Yeah,
than the personal life virtual.
got
And I
it.
think the hybrid programs that most companies are adopting is going to be the future
Yeah,
and is working well for most companies.
yeah. That's good. That's good. Love it. Love it. Ralph, it is great to have you here, and we'd love to have you. Also, who is that on the back? I see the wall in the back of you, the wall of photos back there. Who is that?
Yeah, a couple of people that inspire me.
I
So,
love it. Great to
yeah.
have you here. And yeah, let's hear a introduction of yourself and love to hear about you.
All right. How's it going, everyone? My name is Ralph. Here in Nigeria, it's 5 p.m. here. And I'm the CEO MD of Grace of Technologies. My background has been a bit in real estate and speeding all the way up to technology. And I'm excited to be here doing all of this. Recently, say 3 years ago, pivoted quickly into the extended reality space, and we started to really explore the opportunities that exist there. And but I tell you for sure that one of the key challenges that we've seen around here over the last few years that we've tried to implement is adoption, right? So a lot of people are still around this part of the world are still stoked, right? So look at the different level of diffusion, adoption, and use. We're still struggling with the adoption part of it, but so what we're struggling, all we're trying to do right now is to spread that gospel as much as possible here so that most people can see the use. We're also going forward to implement models and pilot phase projects for schools and national institutions where trainings are done so that they can experience VR education, so to speak. And once these happen, you see that there's a lot of appreciation for what it actually is. Because the perception in this part of the world is that virtual reality is mainly for children and for games, right? So we're changing that narrative. We're changing that narrative, and there's some. Hopefully, we'll hear a lot about it as we go on. There's a lot of progress, and we're happy about it.
I saw it was a Lex Friedman podcast. I saw it yesterday, but he was talking with the lead jujitsu fighter in the entire world. They fight, and yet he was talking to him the entire time, and I didn't understand stuff. What you just said there, Ralph, was it. You said we need to have people experience it. I
That's
didn't
right.
even get what they were talking about moves and chokeholds and stuff. But when you experience virtual worlds,
Yeah.
it's a whole different thing. So I'll just start with Kessler on this. What strategies can assure, do you see that virtual worlds are accessible to everybody? And by the way, my uncle is there in Singapore, and I spent some time, a couple of times there in Singapore, and I love it there. So, yeah, to make it accessible to people of all backgrounds.
For me, first of all, to ensure that it is accessible is the um, low barrier of entry for users. For example, when hardware is no longer the obstacle, it's no longer as high a cost as what we are seeing today, then the virtual worlds will become accessible because you don't have to spend a lot of money on virtual reality goggle or AR gadgets. Any sort of goggle or even the gloves that they are trying to develop, all this actually cost a lot. But the very moment that when hardwares are being normalized and the costs are coming down, I see that as one of the time or era whereby then virtual world becomes very accessible. The second thing that I have in mind and always an advocate for it, it is actually the safety and security, right? There have been a lot of stories about the youngsters, the young ones being marginalized or abused on virtual worlds. It is very akin to real world. You expect some kind of protection, some kind of safety features to be put in place, be it physical policed or some kind of government's policy in the spaces that we have been doing, including the space of AI, which is very hot currently. I've not heard of a lot of actions or a lot of initiatives being pushed toward virtual world, being pushed toward metaverse. So when these two are being seriously thought about, then um, they will definitely then open up the possibility of having virtual worlds really accessible to people of all kind of backgrounds.
Yeah. Yeah, I get both of those. Malay, do you want to speak into that, being in the corporate and now in the place that you're at? Around here, what I see, man, people can't afford this stuff. It's only certain people who can go buy goggles and all this stuff. So it's really not for everybody, because very few people are going to buy that and then have to upgrade it because the Oculus isn't near as good today as it was. Okay, Malay?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Great question. What I have been researching in the last few years is that um, the corporates have to offer solutions to people so that it can be inclusive technology.
Mm-hmm.
It can be sent to every part of the world. I know a few years ago, Facebook was launching its own satellite so that anybody who has a Facebook account would get free internet. And a facility like that can certainly have a lot of far-reaching and impactful positive impact on society as such. Like a few years ago, I think almost 10 years ago, there was a huge earthquake in Nepal, and almost all the schools over there were crashed down. And the UN and all the other countries were giving millions of dollars to rebuild their own country. In a situation like that, where schools would take another 10 years to come up and the children would not be able to go to study, a solution that a Facebook type of company can offer is virtual learning solutions. So that even if the children are not going to be able to go to school, they can still take virtual classes and continue with their education while the schools will be rebuilt. And my dream, and I hope that the big corporations would work on this and create a solution where they can bring in micro satellites, which can be launched there, and free internet could be available in every corner of the world, just like phone services available today. They should be able to offer Wi-Fi in every corner of the world. I think that would make a big difference economically, socially, and in every possible way.
So what if you do have wireless, but you don't have a device?
Yeah, that's again a great question. If the device is not there, when devices like these are produced in mass, the cost obviously comes down.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, you look at the cost of a laptop or a computer today. I mean, it's so much less as compared to what it was 20 years ago. So when they are produced for $8 billion in 8 billion population in the world, the cost would be the same as buying a candy at store, right? So if that can happen, and that's what I think as part of the corporate social responsibility of
Yeah.
corporations could help out and bring that down cost.
Yeah. Yeah. It's got to be from corporate. And yeah, I love that. I love where you're going with that. Ralph, let me ask you about this one. How can user generated content contribute to the diversity and richness of virtual environments? I bet you're doing that. And I bet you have an eye for that, as everyone on stage right now. Tell me about that.
Yeah, thank you, Youngblood. I think that's something that's really important, especially in this part of the world. Um, a lot of people around here see what's happening with the extended reality space, or in the virtual space alien, because they are mostly done in Europe or in the West, stuff and all of that. And so what we're now trying to do is to create environments where local people can, have their own stuff and build worlds. For example, in December, we have what we call a Northern Nigerian Cultural and Creative Festival. And that's happening in December. And one of the features that we kicked into it was the VR experience of the cultural heritage of Northern Nigeria, right? So for the first time, you see these old guys come around and put on the headsets and be immersively experiencing something that was years ago that they probably only read. It could even be, so we're currently tinkering on it and building this stuff. But what you will see happen is that they get more and more understanding, because they're in this world that they formerly just thought that it was for children and games and stuff, but they're there now and they're deriving a lot of value from it. They're learning from it, they're reading from it, they're interacting with it, and their minds are definitely going to change. And so we can now start pitching much more important things to them, and they can see ways that they can be applied. So indeed, that's the current conversation we're having. And of course, we're not just going to be looking at building static things, but we're looking at places where even themselves can contribute, in that particular space, and it'll just grow from there. It's just like when you talk about the concept of generative AI, right? It is what it is fed that it learns from, and it continues to improve. So that entire concept is what we're looking to build in. And so if we follow that path, I'm absolutely sure that it'll enrich the entire virtual world, place. Yes.
Yeah. Let me ask something about this, and I'm going to go off script for a second. Kessler, you mentioned earlier about data privacy and that, with the whole onslaught. So I was doing metaverse before AI, and maybe some of you all been in AI long before then, but AI came and it kind of just took over and has presented a whole new world where any of us can create anything. I'm pretty sure y'all are here right now, but next year at this time, Christopher, wherever you are, I don't even know if I'm gonna believe that everybody's here is here, because you're gonna have digital twins. You're gonna be able to respond to things in a second. So having this user generated content around the entire world, where it may be real or it may not be real. It may be one of someone's 15 virtual images that are out there, avatars that are speaking for them, or we just don't know. AI has created a whole new opportunity. And yet, when you talk about data and security and privacy, there's also implications for, I don't even know what's real anymore. I trust that this is, but I think we're moving into a place, especially with user generated content. Where do you even go with that? Because AI is definitely integrated in all of this. So what's real, what's not, and does anyone even care?
Is that for me?
Let's go to Esther.
Yeah. So, well, if you think about it, when AI was not in the limelight yet, Metaverse had started with Avatar, a lot of virtual reality characters. Before that, games have it. Mobile games, you have got different characters as well. So it has been in our space for a long time. It's just that now with the boom of AI, it just make it even more sophisticated, and therefore start dabbling into the space of fraud and whatsoever in a very negative perspective. But if you take a step back, having virtual characters representing us, or for the matter of fact, totally opposite of us, and has been in existence for a long time, right? So every time when there is a boom of a technology, there will always have got to be some catch up that the compliance, the security, and the policing will have to play. It has always been like that. And I have confidence that somewhere, somehow, someday, they will eventually catch up. They, as in the policing, the governance, the compliance, which for the space of AI, I think Google, Microsoft has announced, and OpenAI just announced recently about all the privacy matters that they are trying to handle. So back to your concern, or back to the topic about so how can user-generated content contribute to diversity and richness of virtual environments? Personally, I feel that when user-generated content comes about, yes, it does increase the richness. But what I like about it is that it actually decentralized power. Gone were the days whereby then all the big boys monopolize the power of information, the power of content. But now with actually user-generated content, number one, that's exactly what the younger generation likes. Number two, it actually distributed the power, which means that you no longer monopolize it. It is the same concept of all the blockchain technology, right? It's all about decentralization. So I actually love the whole idea of user-generated content. I love it.
Yeah, I agree with you. We can create all types of things. Have you all already used Notebook LM? When you get to try it, it's extraordinary. It's sort of the next step of what we're able to create of user content, and it's just out of this world. But yeah, I know that we're headed that place. What mechanisms can inspire inclusive participation in the creation and governance of virtual worlds? What do we have to put in place there? Malay, I'll start with you with this one.
Yeah, great question, Stephen. I'm not sure if I'm audible because I'm facing some lag
We hear
here.
you, but your
Can you hear me?
picture is gone. Yeah, we hear you.
Oh,
Something's wrong with you.
okay. I think it's the video bandwidth then. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. It's a very, very interesting topic and something very close to my heart. And since we're talking about AI, so I'll probably be able to answer that in that context as well. Is that very small thing? Some of the email programs that I've been using in the last couple of years have made a very positive and a significant change to make the users more inclusive. And it can be somehow connected to the user led changes as well. If you notice that a few years ago, when you open your Outlook and you said, hi, John, and then wrote the email, it would straight away have no problems and the email would be sent. But if you used another name, let's say, hi, Marcos, or hi, Muhammad, or hi, Mahesh, which is not necessarily a very regular name, or not necessarily like a ethnicity is not easily identifiable, the name would show a grammar error or a spell error because the system did not recognize Muhammad as a name. Now, that problem has been fixed by a lot of email programs, including Gmail and Outlook and other. So an AI program has been created to make people more inclusive, that the spelling name is not detected as a spelling error, right? So I think that's a very positive application of an machine learning or AI related technology which has come into existence. And this obviously happened because somebody must have raised this as a diversity and inclusiveness issue in the past for AI engineers to work on it.
There we go. We've had to be highly, oh, I was just going to say, we've had to be highly intentional at what we do to make sure our voices, in our case, as a Black community or just different people groups that are coming in. But from my perspective and what I can do right now as a Black AI think tank and Black AI Metaverse is really creating a spot, but man, it's taken intentionality because the default is not necessarily inclusivity and bringing everyone in. The default is generally the people who are creating things. And as several of you have said, if we're at the table and we're involved with that, it really does sort of democratize this whole thing. But we have to, I think some of us have to be intelligent, and sort of really insightful at how we approach this, and sort of figure out what it is that our personal mission is, what you can bring to it, and how you can personally inspire it. And I also like this, that when I'm in these events that Chris does, all of us are a part of something. So you all offer something that I don't have, and maybe I'll say something that helps to fit into part of the puzzle. Somebody said that unity is corporate humility, and humility is realizing you can learn something from anyone. And that idea is just listen to people's viewpoints, and be a part of that. And even this type of conference, it enables us to do that. Um, Governance. Do y'all feel like there's going to be governance when it comes to AI? You think we'll see a place of governance where law catches up to technology? Anyone?
Absolutely. I think there will be governance at some point. As a matter of fact, it is heavily required to put things straight because, just like you said earlier, we're getting to the point where you'll hardly be able to tell what's wrong and what's right, what's real and what's not. And of course, so we're definitely going to need both the big players, the big four, the guys playing in the AI industry, as well as federal government like the SEC and the rest of them, the guys who regulate the regulators, to come on board and find out how to agree on standards, certain standards of regulation, especially when an AI. What I normally like to say when I talk about this topic is to see how to tell out an AI. There's no need to confuse people, right? So no matter how good it looks like me, there should be a label or something telling me or telling people that this is AI. Otherwise, it should not be the general platforms where these things can be displayed, say maybe on StreamYard, maybe on Zoom, maybe on Facebook, should not be interoperable with these places, right? They should not let it work in these places. And if we can all agree that this is the format and this is how we must mark out what's AI and what's real, then that's governance enough, right? So the standards that would be agreed to will have to be agreed upon by all the key players in the industry as well as the regulators as well, like regulatory institutions.
Yeah, that's interesting. That sort of ties me to this idea of the whole idea of virtual worlds enhancing creativity. I just have to ask this, but don't we? No, sorry, that's my own opinion. What about the idea of niche worlds? So around the corner from my house, there's a church that has a service, and it's Burmese. They've had it for years, and there's a language and a cultural type thing there that they want to be around community. In my community, we have a very big diversity of people, but we have Filipino festivals, Hispanics have festivals, Latinos, and we have African American festival, and then we have an international one too. But what about the idea of worlds that are open, and yet there's a niche part of them that they're open, and they can maybe even focus on bringing their own unique uh, diversity to it themselves, if that makes any sense. What about not everything being, hey, everything we create is for everybody, so we take into consideration everything? But yeah, what do y'all think about that?
Yeah, so long as it can be agreed upon. Again, this is for me. What I'm thinking is
Mm-hmm.
what you agree to do. Again, this is where rights and privacy comes in, right?
Mm-hmm.
What once you agree that this is where you're headed, and you're stripping yourself off of all rights, and you're going into a zone where, so it's just like on Facebook or on the social media platforms, right? There's a content that's probably gory or something that you probably are not supposed to look at, and there's a warning that tells you that, look, this is gory. You're getting into somewhere to look at this. And then if you go ahead to click it, you know that you have been warned, right? So you knew it before you got there. So I think we can have this kind of rights and permissions as well to access such kind of places, so that people don't just stumble into these places, but they go there willingly, and they know for sure that they're giving their consent to be in this place. But for the general spaces, that's what I'm saying, or what I'm advocating for the general spaces, there ought to be some general acceptable standards that we can all and we must all agree to, that this is what to live by generally. But then for those niche spaces that you're talking about, people must be able to give their consent. Must know exactly what to expect there and give consent to get into these places.
Yeah, so maybe everything is open to everyone. It's not that everything was designed for everyone. And we can even see that in LinkedIn. There's all types of different communities and they were designed. And I think we can often be more successful at some things when we're more directed at, what it is. And so anyway, anyone else want to comment on that? I'm very interested in the idea of open to all, but sometimes possibly created for, the uniqueness of us all.
So just
Yeah,
to chime in
I
on
think
this.
We'll
Sorry,
do.
yeah, go ahead.
That's the first. Go ahead.
Right. So the whole concept of for all with segmentization, with customization, I think that has got to remain, because otherwise, then it becomes when everything is for all, it is for no one. Because then you are unable to create a good experience based on the segmentization of that particular profile that you're looking at. So, example, like you mentioned, specifically to some nationality, specifically to some culture, it could be deliberately a niche that you have created, but again, it could also be deliberately making it open for all. So having that kind of option, it's going to be good for the society and for the world, because as human beings, there are times whereby we really want to recognize our individuality. We really want to recognize what we are, who we are. But at the same time, there are times whereby we want to feel belong. Yeah. So it's in my opinion, real world, virtual world, we have to have that kind of ability to allow us to practice different mode.
That's good. That's good. Malay, you were going to say something?
Yeah, no, similar thoughts about Kester. I totally agree with that. And with my experience in a lot of open forums and crowdsourcing groups, I see that even though it is open source and anybody can walk in and walk out, at the end of the day, most of the groups, people who are really passionate about the objective and the mandate of the group, stick together. And they are the people who are responsible for more creativity and more innovative solutions to the problems that they're trying to address. So it is open to all, but at the same time, a niche group organically shapes up when they find the right kind of solutions for whatever they are trying to address. So yeah, so totally agree. Open for all works, but it doesn't work for everyone. It works for people who are really motivated to take it forward.
Yeah. I think that's good. And even at the United Nations, it's open to everybody,
Mhm.
but you have to have headphones on to understand something that's otherwise you won't understand anything. Open to everybody, but
Exactly.
have some channels of communication so that you really are open to everybody. Challenges that exist in maintaining quality and coherence in user-built virtual environments. Challenges that you think exist in maintaining quality. That's interesting.
Yeah, yeah, I can say something more related to, I think one of the biggest challenges is cross-cultural considerations. When you're working in a global platform, in a totally virtual platform, many times people are ignorant of the cultural aspects of the communication that is being conveyed. And cross-cultural awareness plays a very big role in terms of maintaining the quality and coherence and whatever they're trying to build. So we have to constantly keep educating ourselves and others, and also constantly learning from others, from their cultural backgrounds. And that's where the communication becomes real communication rather than get converted into miscommunication.
Does everything that we do at this point have to be global? So I have some elementary school, lots of them around me, but does
Mhm.
everything they do have to be global? Can kids exist as kids and learn here and there, but not have everything be global?
I think that touches back to the previous question as to should it be always for all, right? So it doesn't always have to be global because then we are talking about customizing specifically for a geographical location, a specific age group, a specific interest, right? So I don't think it's sustainable for everything to be open for all, for everything to go global. However, with virtual spaces, virtual worlds, it allow you to go global. Yeah, because it's borderless. There is no plane that you have to take. There is no train that you have to take to actually cross from one to another place because everything is just basically in your virtual world on your laptop.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's possible. The beauty of virtual world is that a lot of things are now very possible. A
Uh-huh.
lot of things becomes options that whether you want to build or you do not want to build. That includes actually the quality and the coherence.
Hmm.
Do you want to be different? Do you want to be the same? So virtual worlds, you look at Roblox, you look at Sandbox, you look at Decentraland. These are all virtual world metaverses, but they are all different. They are different in terms of the user's profile, the purposes that the virtual world is for. Even the quality of the artwork, the images is all different. So then comes a question that I used to ask myself, do they have to be the same?
Hmm.
In the real world, we are not the same. But
Yeah.
do we then expect the virtual world to be the same, or how much do we want the virtual world to mimic the real world? Right. So all these are a lot of questions that I used to ask
Yeah.
myself and my team
Uh-huh.
when we start building some of these features on the products and the metaverse that we were previously looking at.
Yeah. That's good. That's a big question. How much do you want our virtual world to look like our real world? Ralph, you want to throw your thoughts into that one? That's a very good question.
Yeah, it's all in the same bucket, and I completely agree, with what she's just said. So I think it is who we are that rubs up on what we do. This is a phrase that I normally say around, my space and to my students and to whoever I'm speaking with. We're not very different wherever we are. It is who we are that reflects on what we do, right? So it makes a lot of sense for our virtual world to mimic our real world, right? And all of the design principles that we put there in the real world to be reflected in the virtual world. Because if you look at it, it's just supposed to be a natural extension of what we're currently doing. If we wanted to take work from the office and continue virtually, it is the same file, the same style of thinking, stuff and all of that. You only probably will be able to have some a more enhanced way of doing certain things that makes you more productive and more efficient,
Hmm.
move things around really quickly. But the general principle of things around um, your natural habitat and how you roll with it, the principle of design and all of that should naturally remain the same, or not, maybe not exactly the same, but it should normally follow that same design principle and all of that. This is my own
Yeah.
thought. Yeah.
I heard somebody say, wherever you go, there you are. So
That's
who we
right.
are, we're going to end up carrying some of who we are into where we're going. I'm one last question. It's about collaboration, and maybe do I want to answer this? So the question is, how can virtual platforms support collaboration and community-driven development? How about making that, since we only have a few minutes, how you plan on doing that? How you plan on using your platform to support collaboration? And let's see, this time we'll start with you, Malay.
Yeah, no, another great question. The way I can support is I come from a career coaching background, so I always try and encourage people who have either been laid off or into career transition. I offer them virtual classes to attend and help them with job search strategies. So I think
Nice.
that's my contribution
I love it.
towards the community.
I love it. That's very clear and focused and centered. Uh, Esther?
Mhm.
For myself, I'm very into helping HR professionals and organizations be more effective by leveraging on AI. So I've been promoting the idea of let's form a community. Tell me what are your use cases so that I could write the AI prompt and scripts for you so that you could use it. Because there's no way that me alone, together with my team, trying to imagine all the use cases, all the problems that you could be facing back in your office, back in your team. So by telling me all this, it helps me actually understand your problem and then write something to help you be more efficient, leveraging on AI, leveraging on blockchain, whatever else, right? So that's the beauty of having a community driven approach, in my
Yeah,
opinion. Yeah.
I love it. That's also straight to the point. And I love this because we're, as guests and people who are listening, are also understanding what you all do who are on the stage and how you can give to it. Ralph, what's your spot there? Ralph?
Yeah, so for me, something we're already doing currently, we're building for the National Obstetric Fistula Center, which is in Katsina, Northern Nigeria. Here, we're building.
Think your signal. Oh, we might have lost him. Hopefully, he'll come back on with his signal. We have a few seconds left, and I was just going to say this one word that comes to your mind when you think of virtual worlds today. What comes to your mind? I'd probably say, I need a second. Somebody else go first. One
Connected,
word. Yeah.
connected.
Oh, I like it. Like it. Like it.
And for me, it's the future.
Oh, I like that too. Okay. Um, I'm gonna go with possible. Yeah, yeah, I think
Mhm.
it's possible. Um, Everybody who's in the audience, would you make sure if you're listening today, connect with folks who are on the stage. I really, really like y'all, this whole international impact, the way we're in different places and learn from one another. One of the things I wanted to have when I went into Singapore last time, I heard about a Singapore sling, and I just wanted to make sure I went downtown. But I love being there, and it's good for us to, even if we can't go to a different place, you can experience it. Try different cultures out and stuff in virtual worlds. And I'm grateful that you all are a part of that. You're on this because you want to see doors opened up for other folks. And Christopher Lafayette does an amazing job of bringing us together. I'm looking forward to connecting with you all in LinkedIn. And thank you so much for your participation today. It's been wonderful. So
Thank you
let's
very
see.
much.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you. It's been great.
Nice,
It's been great.
nice meeting you
Uh,
both. Yeah, great. Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah,